Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. If anybody would like an agenda, they are in the plastic sleeve on the back wall by the map. Before we get started, I'll ask Mr. Soult to please stand and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is Community Notes. Community Notes is a time where if somebody has something they would like to speak about that is not on the agenda already tonight, now would be the time to do so. I know, Mr. Libby, I'll let you go first because I know you actually reached out to me during the week to tell me you had something you wanted to speak about, and so I will be flexible with your time as we have accommodated others who have reached out previously in the past as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
Again, my name is Dan Libby. I'm in Ward 5. I'm a 12-year resident. In April this year, I came before the council to ask a former councilor to hold herself accountable for drawing derogatory caricatures of me and other Waterville citizens when we would come up to speak. And Council Chair Soul was not here to speak at the time to discuss the investigation he made after it was reported to him. I explained in that meeting that I had suffered from a brain trauma years ago and that my alopecia make it uncomfortable for me to come to these meetings and speak. I then asked the former counselor to hold herself accountable and suspend herself for 1 month for her inappropriate bully behavior. When I asked the counselor if this should be a safe place, she said I was frightening her. Luckily, these meetings are recorded, so I encourage everyone here to go back and watch in case you doubt what I am telling you. 2 weeks later, I returned and spoke with Chair Councilor Soul and asked him what he determined in his investigation. He told me right here that it won't happen. I asked, I said, well, what happened? He said, it won't happen. I said, what do you mean it won't happen? He said, it won't happen. I said, it won't happen again? He said, it won't happen. I said, again? He said, again. And then I said, so it did happen. He said, now you are playing word games. This, people, is the nonsense we are dealing with, but let me not digress. So why am I bringing this up now? Because in between the time I spoke with the council and Chair Councilor Soul, I was investigated at the request of former Councilor Lessing by Chief of Police Joseph Massey. Why, you ask? Well, after being told that her behavior was that of a bully, she went right into bullying mode. Let me read to you an email verified by Chief Massey himself to me in an email from Chief Massey. And it read, from Lauren Lessing, hi Joe, so sorry to bug you. Do I need to be worried about that guy? Question mark. Something about the shaky, aggressive, quotations, I have a head injury, unquote, thing, combined with whatever BS Nick has been feeding him about me, has me pretty frightened. Thanks, Lauren. And he sent that to the sheriff. To which he replied, this is where we start to get a little scary. Hi, Lauren, I have no information that Dan Libby is harassing or a violent person. He is not in our record management system. I have spoken with several folks that attended the council meeting last night, and none of them have indicated that he is a violent person. I did hear him say that he suffered from a head injury that has resulted in some physical disabilities that he now suffers from. Based on the information I have, he does not appear to have that he would resort to violence for his cause. As I mentioned, we are monitoring a number of social media sites and sifting through, I apologize, and sifting through hundreds of comments from a variety of folks on both sides of the issue, of the line, and would be criminal in nature. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you feel threatened by social media comments or concerning comments from any person. I'm going to have a continued presence in city council meetings, Joe. So remember when I asked if this should be a safe place? Turns out that when we try to exercise our First Amendment right to political speech, our town and its officials feel that they are above the law. Federal courts side with political speech protection. The ability of the people to speak freely without fear of government repression on matters pertinent to how this country is run while scrutinizing, criticizing, and holding elected officials accountable has been the foundation of the American democratic system. That's what my attorney tells me, but not in Waterville, folks. What happened here was modern day McCarthyism. Effective self-government by people is not possible in a state where all its citizens do not have an equal and fair opportunity to exercise their right to freely and on equal terms discuss issues of political importance and have their voices heard. I was certainly not treated fairly here, nor were the terms equal. Fact of the matter is, I was targeted. I spoke to Chief Massey about this just last week, and he said he would do this for anybody in this town with a reasonable request. There was nothing reasonable about the request to determine if I was somebody to be worried about. It was retaliation for me asking her to hold herself accountable. And as you can see from the email back to Lessing, Chief Massey didn't even know what the issue was that I had with her. No formal complaint was filed with the town. No threat was made or implied, yet I was investigated. So what about all of you? How does it feel to know that if you come up here and speak, that you are just as likely to be investigated without just cause at the whim of a counselor sitting before us if they don't like something you say? Doesn't matter if you didn't make a threat in any way or present yourself as dangerous. You could have perceived disability like what Lessing feels I have and be targeted for it. And our chief of police is willing to go along for the ride. Does that knowledge make you feel like this is a safe place? Members of this council have investigated me. They've conspired to have the mayor removed and have attacked private citizens on the school board. They could work with outside leftist groups to gain support, organize, and fund a mayor recall. They can accept influences by the sustained mid-main coalitions and its agenda. They can find time to do these things, but they cannot find a way to keep our taxes down. They can blatantly disregard the First Amendment, but refuse to be accountable to us or even themselves. There is a problem here, everybody, and much of it sits before us. Our esteemed local press writing garbage puff pieces on Lessing is another problem, but that's for another day. I first came before the council in February this year because I was concerned about our civil liberties regarding the plastic bag ordinance. And what happens to me? My First Amendment rights were violated and I was investigated. It happened to me and it could just as easily happen to anybody else in this room, as Chief Massey has assured me. It's time to take our town back and these cronies, from these cronies and lackeys. Elections are coming, recalls can be had, and I'm told lawsuits can be filed. I urge all of you to consider our sad situation on your way home tonight and ask yourselves this question: what is going on here? Thank you for your time.
Joe? Of course.
Good evening, Council. Chief Master from the Waterville Police Department. I think that was an over-dramatization of exactly what transpired here. Please keep in mind that during the budget process, that was a very contentious time. And there was a lot of complaints to the police department from concerned citizens on both sides of these issues, including the budget and the plastic bag issue, that were concerned about postings on social media, whether it threatened them. And so where would you go if you feel threatened? You come to the police department. That's what we do. So as I told Mr. Libby when former Councilor Lessing sent me that email, that I thought it was incumbent upon me to at least take a look at that. We were taking a look at a lot of social media postings. We were fielding a lot of requests from people who felt threatened, either at the council or in other media platforms. And so, as Mr. Libby said, I responded to her, which I think is reasonable. It wasn't an investigation, it was simply my opinion that based on what I knew about him, he did not provide, or he was not a risk, a violent person. We would do that for all of you. I think that's my duty. I have a duty to warn you, and I'm going to continue to do that, as I told Mr. Libby. And so this was no more than a concerned citizen who had some harsh words with Mr. Libby, as he said, and then was concerned about, did she need to be concerned about possible retaliation from this person? So I think it's a reasonable request. I think it's a reasonable request on the police department, and I think a reasonable response for me to say, Mr. Libby's a nice guy. He doesn't pose a threat to anybody. So that's what it was. No more, no less than just that. Glad to take any questions about how we'll handle these in the future, or Any comments?
What's the process for social media, investigating on social media? Is it a uniformed officer? How many people are doing this? What, you know what I mean? This is a new thing, obviously. So how's that work?
Well, when someone makes a complaint that they feel threatened by a social media comment, then we go ahead and take a look at that and make a determination whether we think there's an actual threat there or just a perceived threat. And a lot of times it's a perceived threat, but nevertheless, you know, a threat, what I perceive as a threat, you might not perceive as a threat. So again, we got to take them seriously. I think that any citizen that would come to me and report a threat, I think you'd be offended if I said, sorry, I'm not even going to respond to you. I'm not even going to take a look at that. I don't think that that would be appropriate at all.
I think we're good, Joe. I don't want to turn community notes into a debate. Thank you.
Okay.
Next up for community notes.
I also don't want to turn it into a debate, but I also don't want to let the police chief gloss over Mr. Libby, because I was also a target of Lauren Lessing. Whether she reported me to the police, I have no idea. I do know that I got very toxic emails from her. In my opinion now, looking back on it, trying to intimidate me. And so she's gone. I hope this chapter is past us, but Mr. Libby is not wrong. She was targeting residents.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has a community note?
Wtvl Airport Advisory Committee. I just want to let the council and the community know that Randy Marshall, the airport director, has gone, in my opinion, above and beyond the call of duty. He applied for 3 grants and was granted 2, which was great for the city of Waterville. But Randy also keeps post, I guess, on surplus equipment, and recently didn't buy one, was donated a bush hog for the sloped area of the Waterville Airport runways and whatever needs to be bush hogged. This cost the city $0. It probably cost them whatever a tank of gas is and such. But Randy is doing an outstanding job. I know I'm on the committee, and next year we want to do a Wheels and Wings 2-day event here in Waterville. Anything to do with wheels, such as an antique car show, Jeep show, car show, and also biplanes. We're going to try to get some government, maybe, who knows, a stealth fighter or something on static or something. But Randy's doing a hell of a job up at the airport, and I just want to be known to the community as well as the council members that you made a good choice when you appointed Randy Marshall for director. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming here too. It's always great when our committee members come. I know Cindy Jacobs comes and is often briefing us in the library, and it's nice when people who are on committees actually come and tell the public what's going on.
Good evening, Mark Andre. I'm the candidate for State House District 110, the north end of Waterville in Oakland. 2 weeks ago I came before the council and notified you of the existence of a petition we were filing around town. That petition asked the colleges to voluntarily contribute funds to our tax base to lower and maintain the mill rate to $18.95 for a period of 5 years. The intention of the petition is to gain the assistance of the colleges to create a competitive environment in Waterville that will draw private, commercial, and residential investment in our community and help to work our way out of the tax hole that we've been in now for several years. What I want to notify the council of is that we've arrived at about 600 signatures on that petition in the first week and a half. 2 weeks ago I told you when we get to 800 we would ask you to file that petition on our behalf to the colleges formally. I'm going to ask you to put that on the agenda in 2 weeks, as we feel 200 more signatures in those weeks is more than doable from what we've been doing. In fact, we expect to have close to 1,200 signatures in that 2-week period between now in the next council meeting. What I want to say to you is this is not a divisive petition. We are asking this of the colleges because there is no other alternative. Mike, can I use you as a resource for a moment? Next year, the mill rate is due to climb to what? Projected.
I have no way of predicting that at this point in time.
I've heard numbers around 27. Is that reasonably accurate?
I don't think it's possible at this time to predict. I think it will go up. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So we have a rising mill rate. And right now, as far as I can see, there's no plan in place to deal with that. Is that correct? Councilman Souls, is there a plan to lower the mill rate for next year?
Have we started working on the budget? Is that the question?
Well, I'm asking, coming forward, short of tearing each other's throat out in 9 months' time over a budget that's clearly going to rise in terms of the mill rate, what is the plan? Anyone? There isn't one. This is why we've put this petition forward. There is no other plan in place. And if we don't gain the help of the colleges in lowering that mill rate, all these wonderful investments they've made in our town, the new dormitory downtown, all of these investments downtown will not spill over into the surrounding community. And we have people out there hurting every day because of this high tax rate. And this petition is a hopeful petition. It's hopeful that the colleges will recognize that if they don't bring the town along with these other investments they've made, if the town falls down around those investments, they're of no use to anyone, including the colleges. So this is a hopeful petition we're putting forward. And what I've said to everyone in town, I don't care who you're voting for. I really don't. And I don't care if I win the election or not for my race. I don't care if you're a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat. I don't care if you think Donald Trump's Space Force is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Please sign the petition, because it will make a difference to have this support and to move this forward. So I will ask the council to put this on the agenda in 2 weeks, and it is my hope that you will approve it and forward it on to the colleges. And thank you. Yeah.
And just for clarification, are you asking the council to have like a resolution?
Yes.
Formally asking?
Yes, the
colleges
contents of the petition, that's correct.
All right.
And the contents of that petition are very simple. It simply asks that the colleges provide the funds voluntarily. We're not demanding it. It's a voluntary request to provide the funds necessary to lower the mill rate and sustain it at 18.95 for 5 years. And the hope being that we will spur investment in our community, and instead of having a lower revenue source and a rising tax rates going forward, we can begin to bring the investment into our community we need to really drive this town forward. Because I think if we had a low mill rate, Waterville's one of the greatest towns in the state. And the only thing that keeps people from moving here is a mill rate that causes people to go to Oakland or Winslow or Augusta or Portland, all of which have mill rates between 3 and 8 points lower than us. So if we get our mill rate down, there's nothing to stop this town from going forward. And that's why we created the petition. And thank you for your time, gentlemen and ladies.
Is there anybody else for community notes?
Can I just add that it would be really good if we saw this ahead of time, if it's gonna be on the next agenda, because I haven't seen it. I heard about it, but, and are we also including Thomas College?
Yeah, you're asking someone who's not involved in this, Steve.
Let me come back to Mike. Thomas College is included, but relatively speaking, Colby's endowment right now stands at about $775 million, if I've read it correctly, with a possibility of maybe another $750 million. Thomas's endowment stands at $12 million. So percentage-wise, we're asking Dr. Green and Colby College to consider this first and bring any other parties on board that may want to contribute. But I felt it was important to start with the largest entity first and gain their approval, but the petition does include Thomas, yes. Are there any other questions I could answer for the council? No? Thank you. And the petition, the exact petition, I believe I did give the council last week, so you should have a copy of that.
And you can sort that out privately after this. Spend more time. Is there anybody else for community notes? Okay, we'll move on to the disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there anybody on the council who thinks they have a conflict of interest with any of the votes they will take tonight? No. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Could I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unfinished business, order 138, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for acceptance and appropriation of the 2018 Burn Justice Assistance Grant.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion? Questions? Can I get a roll call, Patty?
Counselor Sol.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Mayu.
Second. Yes.
Counselor O'Donnell.
Yes.
Counselor Tate.
Yes.
Counselor Dupont.
Yes.
6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next, order 139, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for appropriation of funds.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion? Is there questions? Can I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Sol.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Mayu.
Yes.
Counselor O'Donnell.
Yes.
Counselor Tate.
Yes.
Counselor Dupont.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next, order 140, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
An order providing for grant acceptance and fund expenditure for airport 2018 projects.
Move to adopt.
And second.
Is there discussion or questions? Could I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Sol.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Mayu.
Yes.
Counselor O'Donnell.
Yes.
Counselor Tate.
Yes.
Counselor Dupont.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Order 141, 2018.
And move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
An order providing for acceptance of donations for the Riverwalk project.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Can I get a roll call, Patty?
Counselor Sol.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Mayu.
Yes.
Counselor O'Donnell.
Yes.
Counselor Tate.
Yes.
Counselor Dupont.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving to new business, resolution 145, 2018.
A resolution providing for override of the mayor's veto. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows, that the mayor's veto of resolution 126-2018, authorizing a special municipal election to be held on November 6, 2018, be overridden.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we're gonna open for questions and discussion. First we're gonna have any commentary or questions come from the council, and then we will go to the public for commentary and questions. I have some questions, and I'm gonna ask the council to bear with me. These are honest questions. I'm not trying to be belligerent. I am trying to follow a logical thought process here. Essentially, what we're talking about is a vote by the public on whether we will ban in certain private businesses the distribution of plastic bags. My first question is, would you allow to go to referendum for majority vote? Because there's a lot of people that think electric cars are the way of the future, gas guzzling cars are bad for the environment. Would you allow a referendum where 51% of the people in the city get to decide that only electric cars can be sold here in the city of Waterville? Anybody gonna answer? Would you, there are people who say that eating meat is bad for the environment, the meat industry. Would you allow a referendum that would ban meat from being sold in stores in Waterville? Or that would ban Nathaniel's weekly plastic cup and plastic straw?
Weekly, daily.
Because we have heard that that is actually going to be the next item. How about disposable diapers? They fill up landfills, take up a lot more space in the waste stream than plastic bags. Would you allow it to go to a majority vote where 51% of the people in the city of Waterville get to decide that we're going to ban reusable diapers in the
You got
city?
an awful lot of good ideas. Nick, you want to talk to a group from Winslow, I think.
We have zero interest in those items.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you think this is funny and that
I don't think it's funny, I think it's serious.
So if you are, is anybody first going to answer the questions? Would you allow those things to go to ballot? Yes or no? No. If you're not, maybe you would. Maybe silence is consent here. Maybe you're saying that you would, and that we all need to worry that. Otherwise, it's selective moral outrage, where right now people already have a choice. If you don't want to use these bags, you don't have to use them. If you want to get them, you can. There's actually a lot of people with that take medications here in the city of Waterville that suppress their immune system. People with arthritis, people with cancer, leukemia, these things. Lots of these medications are out there. For them, it's actually an extreme danger when somebody puts their oftentimes germ-ridden 100th use bag on the conveyor belt. And people see that, and if you talk to cashiers, a lot of times, not everybody is clean. So you could actually be putting people's health in danger. So where does the line get drawn? And maybe there is no line, and if it's silence, I will just take it as being part of the record that there is no line, that we live in a community where 51% of the people can start to determine everyday behaviors of everybody else, rather than a free society where people make individual choices rather than go after these things. I mean, I'm a little amazed no one would answer any of the questions but Sydney. I mean, you've already told the paper how you're going to vote before even hearing any of these arguments, so it's fine.
I did not.
You did not. But, is there any other questions or comments from the council?
I just want to reiterate, obviously the paper had a preview of some of the council's votes, and I know, I pretty much know where the vote's going, but I also want to recognize, as I've had conversations with Linda and obviously Todd and Sustained in Maine Coalition, I do appreciate some of the work that you guys did. I was a visitor, I was a part of the transportation team for a little while. You all recognize that. We just have a difference of opinion. Along with the mayor has a difference of opinion and an argument. And my stance on it really is being a business advocate and thinking outside the box, being in business management as long as I've been in for 30 plus years. In the context of my conversations with those managers and owner-operators, I really believe the ordinance would have been better, implied if it wasn't a specific target of businesses that are 10,000 square feet or more. Again, this really is a target of businesses that are the largest commercial taxpayers to this community. So whenever you talk about a ban on a high-paying taxpayer in the city of Waterville, I read into that as being a business unfriendly gesture towards those that are contributing to the community as we are now. And that is my perception as a business manager. I don't think if we reform this ordinance and said it should be in uniform for everybody, because it puts the middle guy, the medium guy, and the small guy at an advantage with convenience versus the large retailers that are going to be banned. So that's my take on that. It's also, I feel, government overreach to be deciding, what your personal and private choices are as far as choice. I think there's a lot to be said of people that should be relied upon in the private sector to make their own decisions when it comes to things like this. I think there should be education initiatives like there have been ongoing, but I think they need to be increased. I'm all for one about the environment. I think it's very critical that we're aware and mindful of the environment and all the things that go along with that. And I think there should be more cooperation between the nonprofits. Waterville creates, others could public education, private education, whatever's necessary to do these initiatives. I think they should be increased. On top of that, I do believe that with an 8.3% tax increase, and now I'm seeing for sale signs popping up everywhere in my neighborhood. For sale signs to people that I thought would never put their places up for sale. It's happening. And it's happening as I speak, and I know it's happening in other wards as I travel around the city. The connotation that this ordinance, some don't believe it will cost the city, but there is some cost to it. May not be a huge cost, but there is an additional cost for a small code enforcement officer that by deliberation and discussion on this council that we recognize is understaffed. And we've been saying that for a long time. And it's still understaffed, especially with the economic revitalization going on downtown, the additional infrastructure that's being built, and the peripheral edges, we have other businesses that are thinking about coming in. But again, the tax bill rate is starting to scare people, starting to scare business entrepreneurs. The divisiveness in the city is starting to scare business entrepreneurs. And we're going to, whenever you talk about regulation, additional regulation, it comes with a cost. An additional regulation to a small code enforcement office to go and police and regulate the large retailers is an additional cost, whether it be small, medium, or large. So to say that there's no cost to this, there is some cost to it. So these are some of the reasons why, after analysis and respectfully, to Todd Linder and the rest of the Sustainment Coalition, because I do recognize some of their work, because I've been a part of listening and discussing and doing some work. I just have a difference of opinion, and I wanted to put that out there, what's already been stated by myself and continue to be stated. Thank you.
I just want to know if there's a line on what we allow people to vote on for individual behaviors or not, but nobody seems to be able to answer that. Yeah.
No. Sorry, I'm not gonna answer that question, Nick, but.
Of course not.
But I just, pardon? What?
Go ahead. I said, of course not.
Oh, okay, but I just wanted to say that, studies show that when you make a decision, it's, you can have one person make a decision, you can have 6 people make a decision, you can have 7,000 people make a decision. The more data you collect, the better your decision is. So that's why we're going this route.
My point is, nobody should be making a decision. We live in a country where I get to make my choices, and you get to make yours, Steve. If that, and I have nothing against Todd. I pointed Todd to the ethics committee. I don't mind. These are not bad people, but I disagree with I disagree with their agenda being shoved down my throat and the throats of others, and I think it's particularly divisive to have it happen. That's not part of our core mission here of success in the city of Waterville, and particularly, and I'm going to keep beating this drum, you are opening the door to an incredibly slippery slope that nobody wants to answer, talk about, or define.
So one person should be able to veto this whole idea, and we can't think about it as a community, is that right?
Yeah, you get to use what bags you want, and I get to use what bags I want.
And those bags stay in our environment forever.
Yeah, they put first of all, yeah, so you want me to have to go back to the grocery store and buy other plastic bags to line my waste bins with and to carry our lunch.
Paper bags?
Well, when this started, we were told that they wanted to ban paper bags. They just didn't think they could get it through the first time. So if you think that these things, yes, we had that discussion. Paper bags I was told paper bags were just bad for the environment too. That's why originally this country went to plastic bags.
I think we were very forthcoming to this council. We came back in February when we first started talking about this. We said we're looking at the 15 other towns that already have ordinances and what's working, what's not working. We considered a ban or a fee on paper bags, and we ultimately decided let's not touch paper, because say somebody goes to the store and they forget the reusable bag, the paper bag will be free. So.
How nice of you to decide.
Wait, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
It's out of order. So are you saying that you are definitely not coming back for straws?
I am saying that at this moment in time, we have no plan. I'm not the sole decider on the committee. Let me just say that this process has been exhausting, and so we won't be coming after straws for quite a very long time if we ever decide. No town in Maine has ever done it, so why would we try to? 15 towns have done bags, so.
Now we'll open.
I would like to echo Steve's comments, if I may, that I have been approached by many constituents who are supportive of this ban, and I do not think it is appropriate for the council to rule out of hand, or for the mayor to rule out of hand to reject this. We take a lot of measures. We have one tonight, for example, to change the hours of use of the parks. We take it on faith that we are acting as part of the democratic process, that because we are considering closing the parks from midnight to 10, this doesn't mean that we're going to, in 3 years, be shutting the parks down. This means that we are considering and offering to the public the opportunity to examine how they think collectively we could improve the quality of the environment in our town. I know there are people who disagree with that, but this is part of the democratic process, and I think it is important that we offer the opportunity to the voters, given the time and interest in this initiative that has been expressed to me.
We will open it to the public.
Wtvl Ward 7. Back in the 1980s, I used to fish a lot with my father. Chain of lakes down in Belgrade, fantastic fish. There used to be a problem. That problem was a 6-pack plastic ring that used to accompany beer, soda back in the day. The state legislature, not the city of Waterville, not the city of Portland, not Auburn, Lewiston, but the state legislature took matters in their hands and in 1987 banned plastic 6-pack rings. This might fall on deaf ears because according to the Sentinel, 3 of you have already made up your mind. My ward, number 7, Jackie DuPont, stated in the Sentinel that she went around and asked. I have lived on King Street for 60 years. On one occasion, under my invite, has Jackie DuPont set foot in my house or knocked on my door?
Correction, I said that I was reached out to by constituents.
By phone?
Did not.
To your friends? To your next door neighbors? I've never seen you around, Jackie.
That they reached out to me. That's what I said. And that.
Well, okay. So they reached
that.
out to you. But I've never seen you canvass the neighborhood, Jackie. Never. And I travel a lot. I'm sorry. You're busy just like I am.
That it's unfortunate.
But I've never seen you knock on a door. Okay?
Okay.
Steve, I commend you. Nothing wrong. But this is a vote for the state, not for the city of Waterville. I'm sorry. And Nick's right. What's going to be next? How many of you have a cell phone? Raise your hand. How many have a cell phone? Plastic. Right on the back of it. How many of you bought water bottle? Whose water bottle is that? That's made out of plastic. I'll calm it down, Nick. I'm mad because this has no business to be on the ballot November 6th. Thank you.
I'm Skip Cool out of Ward 2. I stand here to support the mayor's veto. I do it for starters for one very simple reason. This council has yet to do its due diligence on this subject. When we were here before on this, I suggested to you that there's an alternative to a ban. You consider improving the city's curbside pickup. You ignored me that night, and you obviously have no intention of acting on it in the future. Nor do you seem interested in considering any other alternatives. And until you do consider some alternatives, you haven't got the right to make a decision for the city of Waterville one way or the other. Now, I want you to understand something. Your ban, which will cover maybe 10 to 12 stores at the most, will include in those stores the only businesses in this town that are trying privately to recycle plastic bags. You walk into Walmart, they have recycling boxes for plastic bags. You go to Hannaford, they have recycling bins for plastic bags. You go to Shaw's, they have a cardboard barrel with a plastic bag in it for recycling bags. Why don't you go up there and talk to the managers of those stores? Mayor, drag them if you have to. And I don't care by which body part. But these people need to talk to them about an alternative.
Thank you, sir.
Anthony George, Ward 6. I have some literature I'm going to give you guys when I'm done. I hope you guys take the time to read it. I didn't print off enough, so you guys have to share. But tonight and last week, the group was mentioning about how every single piece of plastic that was created is still around in some form. Every single piece of plastic. Every piece of glass, too, is also around. Every stone, brick, granite that we use to build this building is still around because it comes from the earth. Plastic is made from oil. It comes from the ground. We use it for something productive, and it goes back in the ground. What's the big deal? I know that you email, your computer's plastic. Your big gulp, like I said, is plastic. You're a fireman, I don't even wear those gas masks, plastic. I know Ward 7 had a baby, I read in the paper. Your child seat that you put your child in to keep it safe is plastic. Ward 6, the pen you're writing right now, plastic. Mr. O'Donnell, the glasses you're wearing right now, plastic.
No, they're not. There's glass and there's steel.
There's plastic on it, John.
Oh,
So-
and the nose pads, you're right.
So to say we don't need plastic, plastic is very useful, and we need plastic in our lives. When we were doing the budget, I didn't hear one single one of you guys say, we can't have the slide. The slide is made of plastic. What, no one discussed that in the old slide. What are we going to do with that? No one discussed anything about that. Also, too, I know they tried to give you some scare tactics about, like, in 1975, the river was so polluted and they cleaned it up. That had nothing to do with plastic. That had to do with the logging industry. You can thank fossil fuels for the Kennebec River for being cleaned because it was trucks that could now carry the logs and trains. They have to set it down the river. So you can thank fossil fuels for keeping the Kennebec River cleaner. Also, too, there's a big concern about all the plastic going into the ocean. The NOAA actually did research about this and found out that the majority of plastic in the ocean doesn't come from plastic bags, it comes from fishing lines. So why don't you guys ban lobsters in Waterville? Next time you guys have seafood, because that's where the majority of the plastic in the oceans come from, is nylon fishing lines. And they also tried to tell you that there was this big patch of the size, twice the size of Texas floating around the ocean. That's not true. It's if you took all the plastic that's in the ocean and put it together, but they made it sound like this is a big thing twice the size of Texas floating around. And if you guys really cared about the environment, you would be banning the reusable bags and the cotton bags. The bags that they hand out now, most of them are made in New Jersey. The reusable ones are made in Vietnam and Philippines. And the net carbon imprint for having those shipped here is way worse than the plastic bags that we use every day. Also, too, they said there was, in Waterville, we use 4.2 million bags a year. And they see them all over the town. Everyone throws their bags on the ground. That would be 10,000 bags being thrown away on the ground. I don't see bags at all around Waterville. I walked down, the last 2 weeks I've been walking down the Head of Falls. I didn't find one single plastic bag. We don't have a plastic bag problem. We have a litter problem. I see cigarette butts all over the place, fast food containers. If you guys really cared about keeping Waterville clean, why don't you put some bite into the littering policy ordinance? Why don't you charge $1,000 for littering or $10,000? And then we'd have the cleanest city around, rather than just attack the plastic bags. And what's preventing from the dollar store? Their plastic bags magically are not going to go flying around downtown because they're smaller than 10,000 feet, 10,000 square feet. So I hope, like Nick said, we have a choice every time we go. We get to choose right then and there whether or not we want plastic bags or not. So plastic is good for us. We use it every day.
Hi, thank you. So let's just talk about what the behaviors were that took place a little over 2 weeks ago now. What a bunch of sneaks this council is made up of. First of all, you move the meeting to a different night, and a night when caucusing is taking place. And then when asked to postpone this, the council chair Sol refuses, and they force an ordinance down our throats they knew there would be at least the least amount of resistance on. Sneaks and cowards. But everybody, this is just a bad idea. The plastic bag ordinance and the people representing the Sustained Mid-Main Coalition are a bunch of frauds. And let's examine the facts and what is wrong with this ordinance. One, they said they fixed the problem across the state. Todd stood right here and said they fixed the problem, yet now they have to go back and raise fees associated with taking both paper and plastic bags because people are all too happy to pay the fee. Two, they can't even keep their facts straight. Remember when we got rid of paper bags to have plastic bags because the carbon footprint was greater with the creation of the paper bag? Now they want to get rid of the plastic bag and bring back the more dangerous paper bag. And Linda Woods admits to this. And then she also admits to wanting to get rid of the plastic bag, the paper bag too. Three, when we were told we were told right here that educating people about the environment does not work. So now they must mandate. So because they're not convincing, they can't communicate well. We are being told what to do. Four, this town's council just doesn't care about us. First, they raise our taxes, and now they want to raise our costs at the grocery store. This places the town's citizens into a mandate to buy a product they don't even want today. Five, this town doesn't even want this. The SMMC wants this, and they have spent a lot of time on it, and they've gone to great extremes to find a way to get it passed here. I guess if I spent some time on it, Ms. Tate, you would just put anything else that I wanted to have passed? Apples and oranges. Todd Martin told us that this is only the beginning. He stood here and told us that. And now they have tipped their hand. Plastic straws and styrofoam, we hear next, are on the agenda. How much easier do you think it will be to ban them if they can ban the bag first? 7, store employees are not prepared to deal with the complications this ordinance will present to them. I see it every day in Portland. The cashiers are not attorneys meant to explain or interpret law to customers that aren't familiar with us when they come to our town. And even the people in the town. 8, people like having these bags for a multitude of reasons. For pet pickup, for small trash cans in the house, bagging things for kids at school, heck, groceries. The ordinance, number 9, the ordinance is an attack on our civil liberties, which is the individual rights protected by law from unjust governmental or otherwise interference. Other being this council and the SMMC. And 10, most importantly, a solution is already in place. Anybody going to the grocery store today, you listening, City Council? Because I don't think you do. Anybody going to the store today can do what this ordinance is proposing. Self-governance is real and most effective when we are allowed to do that. I don't have to take a bag when I go to the store. And if you want to use your bag, you can use your bag. That's America. Now, it's not the time for us to be sheep or lemmings here in Waterville. We must not fall victim to the environmental guilt that Todd and the SMMC and all that come with it. Putting this ordinance on the ballot puts us all at risk. We have all seen how poor phrasing on ballots can be confusing and misleading and at times damning to the people. And damning because this is the people control that the SMMC is really putting on us, plain and simple. So at the risk of being investigated again, I ask this council to be accountable to its citizens and not vote to overturn the veto from the mayor. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathy Weeks from Ward 1. We're in a pathetic situation, aren't we? I know we have the French fry crisis going on also, which we should be discussing. But, you know, we have, last time we talked about these people in the Veterans Park, and I wish we could have the enthusiasm to fix that problem that we have for this plastic bag thing. Shame on us. And the taxes. Tonight I met with a resident, and he is begging for us to do something about the taxes. You know, he said he budgets his food so he'll have enough money to save for the taxes on a quarterly basis. And does anyone on the council care except maybe a couple of people? My next door neighbor, the house went up for sale today because of the increase in taxes. And by the way, the other house that went for sale, well, now we have the privilege of having the police department come to visit that house every once in a while. So I know the statement had been made, let's get rid of all the old people, all of the longtime residents, so we can have a complete cleansing of this town. Well, this is the type of thing that's happening. This plastic bag thing, I feel like our mayor is telling the truth about this. Of course, if this man passed out $100 bills every day, he would be condemned for that too, especially by the paper. From 2009 to 2017, $81 million was contributed by PAC money from out of state. And I'm sure some of that money went for our mayor recall, because unlike some people had said, oh, it was just Waterville residents walking, someone was stupid enough to tell me the truth that, yes, I am from Portland. And Portland has been deemed one of 3 most secular cities east of the Mississippi. So that's a great tribute to Portland also. But this foolishness has got to stop. We need to focus in on the budget. What Councilor Mayhew said is absolutely right. Businesses don't want to come here. Residents move. The only ones that are buying houses, I am told by a longtime realtor, are Colby people. Well, as I said to one person, we can't back on Colby for everything. Look at Camden and what they backed on, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, investigate that. It was called MBNA. We cannot bank on Colby for being our savior. And I think we need to back our mayor on this. Mr. Roy was right when I read that he advised the group not to bring this up at this time after we've just been through all of this other circus. So just something to really think about. Do we want all of these outside people that don't even live here coming to dictate what we need to do in this small little community? Thank you.
All right, the Red Sox are on, so I'm going to make this very quick. I appreciate everybody's comments, truly. My name is Todd Martin. I live in Ward 6 here in Waterville. I really appreciate everyone's comments tonight, and I appreciate the City Council for considering this and considering to place it on the ballot this November. Councilor Mayhew, I'd just like to respond to a few things you said. First of all, I do appreciate your thoughts and your honesty with myself and Linda and other people and everybody in this room tonight, so thank you. As far as making this a level playing field, if we had said, let's ban plastic shopping bags at every single business, we would have been said that that's not fair because every small mom and pop locally owned business would have to ban plastic bags in their store. If we had just done a 5-cent fee, it would have been labeled as a tax. So we consider all those factors, and the large big box stores are where the majority of plastic shopping bags come from. So rather than have it impact every single business in town, we decided to make it narrow and go after where most of the bags are coming from. Secondly, you talked about education. You go to Hannaford today, there's a sign right above the cart corral that says, "Did you remember your reusable bags?" That's left over from a 2009 campaign that the state tried to do to encourage people to bring reusable bags. It failed horribly. The signs remain. It's reminded me a few times. But just to say that education alone hasn't been effective, especially on environmental issues. And finally, Mr. Mayhew, one of the comments that you made tonight and at the previous council meeting was the cost to other towns and to code enforcement officers. I reached out to the 15 towns that have a bag ban or a fee and talked to their code enforcement officers, their town managers, to see how enforcement was going, how much time they're spending on this. And I believe I sent you that document of what I have so far. Long story short is they spend probably a few hours per month responding to emails and phone calls. That was a high estimate. There's never been a fine issued to a business found in noncompliance. It's been running very, very smoothly in other towns. And I'm happy to volunteer my time to work with the code enforcement officer if this passes to take some time off from him. It's nice to meet some of the people who have been harassing me on Facebook here tonight. The threads have been incredibly harassful, but I thank you for getting out behind the computer screen and coming to a city council meeting. Seriously, there's a lot of people who would just stay home and type, but you're coming out and making a difference, so it's nice to meet you. One gentleman said that this should be a state issue. The state legislature did pass a bill last year, LD 52, that encouraged towns to pass ordinances to reduce the amount of plastic bags we use. The governor then vetoed that bill, saying that it's not a problem because in the springtime, the snow washes away all the plastic bags into the river, so it's not really a problem. Well, that's exactly the problem. So the state has done something about it. The governor vetoed that bill. And so just to clarify that. The mayor claims that we're spending too much time at the council level on this. I agree. We wouldn't be here if the mayor hadn't vetoed this, and we wouldn't have been spending this hour and a half. It's probably the third inning of the game. So I think that the reason we're here is because it was vetoed.
Well, likewise, if you didn't try to mandate your morals on other people as well.
That's my...
I just needed to respond to that.
Sure.
Say you can blame me, but
Yep.
I could just as easy throw back at you and
Sure.
say you could stop trying to mandate other people's behaviors.
Yep, sure. Mr. Libby and others have said that we shouldn't be harassed for using our First Amendment rights. Well, I am being harassed for using my First Amendment rights right here, right now. I live in this city. I pay taxes. My wife and I own a home, and we're proud of our lifestyle, and I'm proud of our effort. The last thing I'll say is that yes, a lot of things are made out of plastic, but there are alternatives to plastic shopping bags that we've only been using since 1976. Before that, our parents and our grandparents, well, I guess a lot of folks in this room, I'm showing my age, we used paper bags before there were plastic bags in the 70s. I think we'll be okay. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Julian Payne, Ward 5. It's not so much about the plastic for me. The mayor had a good point. At what point does the government decide what we can and cannot use as a community? And I had the same argument with a friend, well, what next? We can only drive Priuses. Luckily, I own a Prius, so I'd be okay. Yeah, so at what point do we decide as a council, as a group, what the residents can and cannot do? But I find it ridiculous that when the mayor asks the question to the council, not one of you can speak and respond. You had no problem coming up with answers when you were asked, was there any outside influences and signature gatherers on the recall? All of you answered no, and we actually found out there was 9 or 10 of them. Maybe Nathan didn't.
Yeah, I didn't answer anything.
Yeah. Were you here that night? No, sorry.
That's
So, the community you represent, the press and the people here tonight should have got an answer. I think this bag issue and the contention about it goes way beyond that. It goes that the community is just sick of bogged down issues. They need a break. And again, I think Mike had a good suggestion. Let's just get a breather. The fact you didn't answer tonight was actually probably a good thing because I actually sit back and know that I probably got an honest answer. Thank you.
Hey,
Stu
Stu.
Silverstein. I'm a resident of Waterville, and I have a question for Councilor Mayhew. I know you're a very thoughtful person, Councilor, but I need to know how you justify, we being in a democratic society, how you justify not allowing your constituents a right to vote on this issue in November.
How do I justify it? It's because this government right here, right now, is a facilitator of making choices for private citizens, because this is where it starts.
Excuse me, please hold the applause.
Thank you.
Yes. I wasn't asked for an answer, but I will. We are an elected republic, representative republic. We were not meant to. Our founders wrote at length, actually, about they were terrified of tyrannies of the majority, who would then start having 51% of the people continue to dictate and mandate how the minority lived, and that's my concern. And you wrote me a thoughtful email. I tried to write a thoughtful one back to explain that position. I don't dislike you. I don't dislike Todd. I don't dislike Linda. I just feel as strongly about that position as you guys feel about yours. Yes, sir.
I'm Dick Thomas, resident in Ward 3, and I'm just reacting to the level of assumption of negative intention. A lot of people are assuming that our representatives here, well, it sounds like you're assuming like they're bad people and they're really trying to do bad things to you. My belief is that nobody volunteers to do this kind of work unless they have really good intentions for the city. And I believe the same for everyone here. We're all here because we want Waterville to be a good place. But I think if we assume bad intentions about others, we're not going to be able to listen. We're not going to be able to work together. So my request is that when you feel like the opponents here are really doing you wrong, just consider the possibility that their intentions are positive. You may have a difference of opinion, but let's see if we can work together.
Thank you. Sir, you've already spoken on the topic. All right, so we will move to a vote. And Patty, I'm going to need your help because Bill's not here. A yes vote overrides the veto and sends this to the ballot. A no vote sustains the veto and says we will not move forward with this.
Step up, council.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor?
Yes. So the yes vote. The yes vote.
This is the yes vote.
Okay.
Opposed? All done. All right, excuse me. Order. We'll move on to something a little more fun, Resolution 146, 2018. You waited a long time for this.
A resolution providing for issuance of a special amusement permit to Eric Willett and Ryan Flaherty doing business as Waterville Brewing Company. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows, that a special amusement permit be issued to Eric Willett and Ryan Flaherty doing business as Waterville Brewing Company, 10 Water Street, Suite 110.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? I would just like to say, if nobody's been down to Waterville Brewing and you like beer, please go. It is some of the best beer I have ever had. It is delicious, and they give you reusable glass containers that you can bring back and get refilled. But it's great beer. I'm super excited that you're here and using the Waterville brand. Thank you.
Plastic?
I bet there's some plastic. Plastic tubes. Any questions from the council?
No.
All those in favor? Thank you, sir. Next is Resolution 147, 2018.
A resolution providing for approval of lease amendment land at LaFleur Airport. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council, acting as municipal officers as follows, that the existing land lease with James Roverge be approved as shown on the attached page for the existing lease.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion about this?
I'd like to talk about adding an amendment to this, please.
Okay.
So it would state, want me to read what it would state?
Please.
In the third paragraph, the paragraph that starts with that the existing land lease with James Roberge be approved as shown on the attached page from the existing lease, and that the city manager be authorized to complete any and all other paperwork necessary, or necessary paperwork.
Second.
Please.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment? Okay, can I get a motion to move as amended?
Move as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Next is Ordinance 148, 2018.
Move to read by summary only.
Second.
All in favor? Getting fancy now.
Well, you know.
An ordinance providing for amendment to the public safety ordinance. Summary, this section has been moved to the Parks and Recreation ordinance, and the hours changed from 6 o'clock a.m. to 12 midnight to 6 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any particular reason for the change?
Well, of course, Council Mayor at the last meeting had mentioned a change in the hours for the parks, which we certainly agree with. Used to be midnight, 6 a.m. to midnight. It's too long. So we're proposing to make it 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. When we looked at where that particular provision was about hours, it was in an ordinance where it really didn't belong. So we're proposing to move it into a much, I think, clearer place. So if people want to look at what the parks times are, they'll know to look at the Parks and Rec ordinance, and not this other place.
And in fact, Mike, and leading to Joe, Chief there, that this ordinance gives us a little bit more leeway or bite as far as concerns with what's been happening down at Veterans Park.
Yeah.
Which has been a concern of those residents living in and around and abutting that property. And that's been the epicenter right now for this to be submitted the way it is. And Joe, that would provide you a little bit more bite and leeway on what you can do. So this is the reason for this.
Mr. Veer?
Does this concern all parks that will be like North End, all parks?
Yeah,
From
all
6 to
parks.
10?
6 to 10.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? Resolution 150, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
Section 149.
All in favor?
It's 149, ordinance 149.
And did you say title only or
Yes,
summary?
title,
An ordinance providing for amendment to the Parks and Recreation ordinance.
because it's the same hours, from 6 to midnight to 6 to 10, right?
Right. This is part of moving it from one ordinance to the other.
Exactly.
Is there a motion put on the floor?
No. Was there a move to adopt?
Move to adopt, didn't I say that?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Next is Resolution 150, 2018.
Providing for agreement for city council meeting room. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that the attached meeting room agreement be approved, which will provide the city with a permanent meeting room for city council, planning board, and possibly other city meetings.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion, council?
It's free.
Mike, do you have any information with how you came to the recommendation for this move? To this
Right, I
location?
sent that out to all of you yesterday, a summary of places that we had looked for other options for this meeting room, because come October 1st, we won't be here. So we need a place that's accessible. This isn't the greatest place for accessibility. We need a place, hopefully, that's free. We need a place that has good audio, because for the filming purposes, it's important to have an audio source. We need a place that can hold up to 75 people. We need a place that people can have easy access to. And so in that memo I sent you yesterday, I listed 8 different criteria. And we looked at Waterville Public Schools, high school, junior high, looked at Educare, looked at Muskie Center.
Opera House.
Thank you. Waterville Opera House. And clearly, from all that looking, the room at the new Colby dorm building on Main Street is the best room. It's on the first floor. Security is another big issue. With public coming into a building that we don't own, now all of a sudden, if we don't control all the exits and places people can go while we're in a meeting, which is hard to do, so some of the places got eliminated from that perspective immediately. For instance, the high school. So I'm recommending to you that we use that meeting room that was built as a community meeting room on the first floor of that new building. When they designed the room, they came to the city and said, how big a room do you need? And we told them, well, probably 75 people. Where would the council sit in the room? So on the design part of it, they really consulted with us. They had our IT people there looking at the audio and video capabilities too. And the other thing about the room, being right on the street, it's very easily accessible. There's certainly no handicap issues with people getting in and out. And security-wise, also very, very good, because we'll have access to that meeting room area, and then not access to any other part of the building. I'm happy to answer any other questions people have.
Long-term?
And there's no fee.
Long-term wise, do we see the city having our own space, so we can have meetings in our own house?
Believe me, I wish we could. I just don't know where it would go, Mick.
And I'm not trying to be down on this,
What do
I mean,
we
I
pay
wish-
each year right now for this place, this rental?
I'm sorry?
What do we pay each year for this rental?
Well, this room is part of us renting the 3 offices
yeah.
back here. So the total space that we ran up here is 20, it was 27,000 a year. We eliminated one storage area a couple years ago, so that brought it down, I think, to 23. So really, when this building becomes non-usable to us, we do save over $20,000 a year. Because the people that now work here, code enforcement, planning, city engineer, are gonna have to move into City Hall.
Right, exactly.
You know, and I wish right above City Hall, in the Opera House, was a place for public meetings, but the problem is, in the Opera House, the council sits up on the stage and the public sits down here, and that's not a good venue or a good
And
approach.
handicap access was also one of your
Handicap
limitations.
access for the Opera House, not easy. So,
Mr. Payne? Yep.
I think moving the building into the Colby shows really the lack of comprehension of what's really happening with revitalization. When I walk my ward, and I do walk the ward, 8 out of 10 homes felt disenfranchised. It was the common theme was Colbyville, Colbyville, Colbyville. We have seen, when you have counselors that also work at Colby, and according to Waterville leaks, you can see emails that were sent with a move to try and remove them, or to ask the city lawyer how to remove a mayor, and then we're going to put our government in that building. There's a lot of teething problems. You might save money. There's a lot of big decisions to be made ahead, two-way. Donations from Colby. According to Mark Andre, he has 600 plus signature. That's almost as much to recall a mayor. And I believe a couple days, a few people. So to take our government and put it in an institution that is part of buying up our city, and a lot of it is great things, but I think it's going to lead to a lot of disenfranchisement by the regular community. And I don't think it's a good way to smooth things over and get rid of a lot of the teething problems that are already out there. And is it as big as this room? I don't believe so.
Bigger.
It's bigger than this room. So, you know, I think the residents will be left feeling more disenfranchised, more that the city government is taken over by Colby. And I think at all costs, that really needs to be prevented for the long-term benefit of the city, you know, and people really need to look at that and see how the community is feeling. Thank you.
Is this a one-year agreement, Mike?
well, I think that we can end it anytime we want.
It's not a time, I didn't see any times in there, but.
Right. We can end it anytime we want. I wish we did have our own space.
Yeah, well, I will say the only concern I've heard out there is, and I think there's some credence to it, is that you have 200 students with out-of-state license plates who live here 9 months a year and don't pay taxes that potentially could be harnessed for political purposes to really crash a meeting on. Not that they couldn't come here, so I mean that's why I'm kind of, but I don't know if we're going to be right in their living room essentially if that happens. But that wasn't a comment for or against. I'm just saying that these are concerns I've heard.
Jake Quello, Ward 5. I agree with Julian when he says that people in Ward 5 feel disenfranchised. However, I also believe that we can't look to Colby for help. And then when Colby decides to help us, we bite at him. It doesn't make any sense. The space isn't permanent for us. We can move whenever we want. We don't have another space now. It's going to save us $25,000 a year, roughly, somewhere in that neighborhood.
We looked into the schools, and there were a lot of limitations including we wouldn't be able to use part of the space during the winter at all.
So again, I think we need to look at what subjects we want to argue about all the time. There are some, obviously, people upset about different issues in this town. We have to be able to communicate without thinking that everyone's gonna throw rocks at us. It makes no sense when the school reaches out to give us help that we sort of push that back. That was it.
Sean Still, Ward 2. I just had a question. You said there was something else moving from this building into...
So right now we have code enforcement and our city engineer and planning in behind these doors right here. They will be moving over and taking up space.
Also had one question. He'd probably be able to answer it best. In between the old communications room and the booking room, is that brick wall?
Downstairs?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where the old communications room is and where the booking room was when you brought people downstairs? Is it? What would, you said $27,000 a year to rent this spot?
All the space.
All the space? What if we were to take a portion of that, turn that spot downstairs, because you have your handicap spot ramp, and it's a hall, if we're able to go in between the old booking room.
Go in the old police station?
Yep, and then it's conducting business at City Hall where it should be. 4 generations of my family have conducted their business in City Hall here.
Well, since the police moved out, we've made a lot of changes to the
Understand
basement.
that.
I'd be glad to show it to you.
No, I know, I'm just throwing ideas
There's
out,
not-
how to keep it, because you
there's
said
no
it's
way-
not permanent for us to be there.
Yeah, no, there's no way
So-
we could make a room even 1/4 of this size down in the basement.
No. No, so that was an idea. So.
I have in my hand, and I don't know who wanted to move it by title only, but let me read what's on the amendment. That the attached meeting room agreement be approved, which will provide the city with a permanent meeting room for city council, planning, and possible other city meetings. Now, permanent, to me, means forever.
Thank you.
Correct.
Dan Bernier, resident of Ward 1. I took the time to actually read the lease, or skim it anyway. I don't read upside down as well, so it didn't flip here. And if you look at this, Colby is giving a 10-year commitment. But if you read the end of the lease, the city can terminate on 30 days' notice without cause. So they're promising to give you 10 years, but you can get out at any time, 30 days, if you want to get out. In commercial leasing, for a landlord to make a 10-year commitment, but say the tenant can get out on 30 days' notice without cause, is absurdly generous. You would never see a commercial lease on those terms. And if somebody walked into a lawyer's office, the landlord with that lease, they would ask them if they've been drinking. That's, you know, we're talking about going from $27,000 a year to free on a lease, which if it doesn't work out, if the Colby students are disruptive, you can just get out of the lease and go to another spot. I know there's a lot of other issues kind of underlying this. Yes, our taxes are too high. Yes, the city's been through a lot. But don't cut your nose to spite your face. This is a freebie. Turning down a free lease versus a $27,000 lease is aggravating the problem of the city's taxes being too high. It's not helping reduce them. I would encourage you to approve this. I mean, I would agree with Mr. Veer. Your agenda item was perhaps not properly worded, but if you actually read the lease, it's amazingly generous.
But it could work out, and we might want to stay.
That's right. And they've guaranteed you can stay for 10 years, but you can get out anytime you want.
Thank you very much.
I'm Dan Anderson from Ward 5. I am concerned about being in the Colby College facility. I mean, you could slip off your sneakers and go down and put your sneakers on in the middle of the Bruins intermission, go down to the city council meeting, have your item heard, or, you know, speak about your item, go back up to watch a Bruins game and not even miss any of it. I'd love to have that opportunity. I just started recently coming to the meetings because it takes part out of my night. And that's one reason I never thought about running for council, because I don't want to obligate to every Tuesday night. But, and also on the news, the other night, I think it was the dean of Colby, said that she wants the students to be involved in the community, which is fine, but I'm concerned about 20-year-olds who are here temporarily running my city. I mean, 20-year-olds are great. I raised 3 of them, and they're smart, but you know, when we had conversations when they were 20, you know, we didn't really see things eye to eye because I can understand what they were saying, but I've been there, done that, and found better ways to do things. So that's my concern about it. And if we could do it maybe with a temporary basis, knowing that we can leave and get out of it, is fine. But if council charters get changed and stuff like that along the way, that can really change the whole picture of the government. And quite frankly, the reason I'm here is I'm scared that that's happening, not here, but throughout the country and throughout the world. And where it's going, I don't know, but it is kind of, it looks like we're on the verge of change, and I'm just hoping it's good. So yeah, that is a concern that
Thank you. All right, we're going to move this to a vote. All those in favor? All opposed? Next, we will go to Resolution 151, 2018.
Move to read by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for a contract for economic development services.
Move to adopt.
Second.
For those, since we only read it by title only, this is a renewal of our contract with the Central Maine Growth Council. For those of you who don't know, the city does not have our own Office of Economic Development. To do so would actually cost us well over $100,000 to get somebody with the caliber of talents that we need to do the business that's being done right now. We have a great opportunity with the Central Maine Growth Council. Several years ago, they restructured. Garvin Donegan, always modest, but I'm going to sing his praises here. He is one of the biggest unsung heroes in our community. If you want to talk about getting our money's worth, this is one of the best values for the dollar is in the Central Maine Growth Council. Every major economic news piece that comes forward, and we've had even just some recent really wonderful news, Garvin has been involved in. Garvin works with every new business from if somebody wants to start something up from scratch to a major company that wants to move into the city. And he's doing it at an incredibly low cost to us compared to what we would have to pay for that. I know when I have questions about economic development, I can call Garvin and say, can we do lunch? And he's there doing that. He also works on behalf of Fairfield, Oakland, Winslow. And so there's a real regional outlook to it as well. He understands what's going on in the region, and economic development is a regional thing. My grandfather moved to Maine and lived in Waterville because he got a job at Scott Paper over in Winslow. So without belaboring the point, I'm incredibly enthusiastic about renewing this. I think it is just one of the best absolute values, and frankly, I think it's just a great deal for the city. Yes.
I second what the mayor said in regards to Garvin Donegan. You know, I've had some one-on-ones with him in the past, and I look forward to having more. And what the Central Maine Growth Council entails and embodies, I think this is one of the best, if not the best contract the city could ever renew in its history. Because economic development, folks, is where the grease goes to the squeaky wheel. I'll tell you right now, we need infrastructure, we need great mindsets like Garvin has, we need value all in one, and the city of Waterville is very grateful to have something like the Central Maine Growth Council and the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce, of course, with Kim in there and the wonderful things that she has done and her staff in conjunction with the Central Maine Growth Council to what they do on regional and the community basis, and I sing the high praises all the way to the heavens when it comes to this, because again, economic development is the highest of priorities for a city trying to get itself out of a muck and mire situation that we're in with tax mill rate, with a lot of the confrontations and connotations that we are involved in. So very, very, like the mayor said, Garvin is a very humble person, doesn't want to receive all kinds of accolades, but it's not only, and he will say this himself, it's about the team. And it's about what he and the team are doing is what's so vital to the city. So thank you very much.
At the risk of
I know we're not supposed to clap, but
I was just going to say, at the risk of belaboring the point, I would also like to extend my congratulations for the amazing projects that you have revealed over the last year, and I know there are many exciting things to come, so thank you for all your work for our community.
and I want to echo what all of you have said. I certainly agree with that. This is the best value that we get in many ways. I did want to point out, Section 3 in the agreement with the Growth Council is something that's new. So just so you'll know that with the foreign trade zone that the city has adopted, finally, with the help of Garvin and Kim Lindloff, we've been able to attract one company to take advantage of our foreign trade zone. As a result of that, we're able to collect a fee from that company for their, they benefit tremendously by qualifying to be in the foreign trade zone. So I just want you to know that when those fees come in to the city, our intention, my intention, and I hope it's yours too, will be to turn those fees over to the people that did all the work, the chamber and the Growth Council. By law, the city has to be the applicant, the holder of the foreign trade zone license, but these folks do the work, and so when the fees come in, I believe we should turn it over to them. We've done that once already.
Just to the Growth Council. The fees won't go to the chamber at all.
Just to the Growth Council. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other? All in favor? Great. Thank you. Last on the agenda, Order 152, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for approval of forfeiture.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion?
Can I just ask a quick question? Is that a vehicle that you guys could use?
This is gonna use.
No, that you could use, you know?
Okay, plans on use. Yeah, it would not be something that we would be really.
Okay.
All in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So what do you do with it? Sell it. And the money that you get for it goes back to the police department?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, manager report?
I only have 13 items tonight.
I'm hungry.
Just kidding. One, today we had our, what I think is our final session with the police union. We're in mediation. We never reached agreement on the contract. We went into mediation. We've had 2 mediation meetings. They haven't gone so well. So we'll be coming back to your next meeting. That's the only reason I'm mentioning it. Your next meeting, executive session to talk about where we're at with contract negotiations. Just wanted to give you a heads up. And probably not the thing that most people want to hear, but tax bills are going out in the mail tomorrow.
Boo.
I know.
Motion to adjourn.